Everyone, welcome to the show today. I'm excited about our guest. He's an entrepreneur at heart. His name is Maceo Jourdan. Let me read you some of the things that he's accomplished. He's a serial entrepreneur with like a little meat that goes behind that, right? That's thrown around a little bit, but he can actually back that up. He built one of the earliest high-frequency trading systems for the S&P 500. He's also the founder of Connexia, and which is in the healthcare industry. Check this out. He was the founder, chairman, and CEO of Retire3 Publishing, which is a Phoenix-based publishing company. He started the company with $25,000 with a $25,000 loan and grew it to $26 million in 3 years. Welcome to the show.
Allan, I'm glad to be here.
This is awesome, man. So what did I miss? My guests are aspiring entrepreneurs or they're already established. I've got everybody from somebody wondering if they should take the leap to people that do, 10 figures plus a year in gross revenue. What do they need to know about you?
Well, first of all, if they're doing 10 figures, they definitely need to contact us for potential investment. So I'll say that right off the bat.
Okay.
Let's start with the aspiring entrepreneurs and hopefully give them like a good framework for, number one, understanding where they're at really, and then how to maybe get to the point where they're looking at 10 figures. So the starter and the seasoned entrepreneur have quite a few differences. And I think one of the drawbacks of especially social media with Instagram and this culture where you're presenting a picture specifically to manipulate an algorithm, which, like you said, I've got a lot of experience with, you wind up getting a skewed version of the truth. So I'll start with something from left field. What most people don't understand about the markets, so stocks, Forex, currencies, whatever, is that the professional traders actually act almost in direct opposition to retail traders. Right. So when most of the public is looking to buy, they're actually buying from professional traders, which is the real reason why most people don't make any money. Because guys like me were hired to pump stocks up to really high prices so that the people who were really rich could get even richer because they've got to buy low and sell high, just like everybody else, right? But if you look at the media and you look at websites and people that are selling information on how to make money in trading, they're going to give you lots of other stuff as for what's going to make you successful. Now, this is not just a philosophical point, right? So let's talk about that beginning person. Should I even be an entrepreneur? Well, let's talk about that. Can you do math, right? So I had a partner, I call him Mr. Accountability jokingly. We were working on actually a really large acquisition, and I found out that he couldn't figure 10% in his head, right? So if you said, hey, there's $1 million, 10% is 100,000, right? You just chop off 1 0. With some further questioning, it turned out that the guy basically had a 5th grade math education. That's going to get in the way at a certain point in business, especially where we were, because no person in their right mind is going to invest $2, $3, $5, $10, $20 million in your company if they know that you as an individual cannot do 10% kind of math in your head. And so, that's just the way that it is. And that's actually a really smart thing to do. So that's one thing. Like, what are your math skills really? And I'm not saying you got to be a PhD in math to grow a business. I'm certainly not. But it's more about the focus on where are you really? So again, for the starter entrepreneur, maybe somebody who's coming out of the corporate America, you've got someone, just age-wise is sort of naturally in their starter years. So 18 and up. So 18 to maybe 25, 27, 28. You've got, if you're under 23, the main thing getting in your way is that humans' brains don't develop the ability to really understand the future until you're older than 23. It's literally a physical development in the brain. So again, how are you if you're 20, are you really going to be able to build this business that's going to be around for 5 years when you're like focused on the end of the week?
Yeah.
So those are just some really concrete examples of how to begin thinking about where you are as an individual, really, not where your mom thinks you are, not where Simon Sinek with all of his rah-rah, or Tony Robbins with all their rah-rah, but like actually, what can you go out in the world and do? So I'll cap it off with this. I had the honor of going through Special Forces selection. I didn't get selection, but I made it through. It's one of the toughest experiences the human beings can ever accomplish, mentally, physically, emotionally, and all that. So to me, it's a feather in my cap. The reason why they do that, Allan, is because you don't just hand somebody who walks in off the street a gun, kick them out of the back of an airplane at 12,500 feet and say, go get him, Tiger. You know what I mean? Like, you want them to go through a little bit more than that. Yeah. And so one thing to keep in mind is that it's not, don't think of it like there's any one person out there who is going to select you, right? That wants to see some qualifications, but the market will, customers will, your competition will. So there's all of these forces out there which are constantly testing you. A better word would be proving you, right? So when the ancient samurai would get their swords, the best swordsmiths who were making those weapons for them would make this thing with a massive amount of work and then try and break them. So the samurai knew when they got this weapon that it had been proven, which is different than testing, right? Because they've gone through like a real world trial of that tool's ability. And so that's really all that I'm talking about is, as an entrepreneur, if you're saying, well, God, Maceo, like, now what? Like, I got none of that. I would say, excellent. Then go find something that will put you through the gauntlet. Like today's society I was watching a video, and there's this college student saying to an administrator, while they were crying, by the way, your job is to create a safe environment for me. And when I heard that, I thought, well, that's just not the real world. Tell me one environment on the earth that's truly safe. Like when my daughter was walking in the backyard, you say, oh, it's safe in the backyard. Well, she got injured. Okay, it's a minor injury. She scraped her foot. She stepped on a pebble. But I mean, still, it's like there's no place on the planet that's truly safe, let alone the competitive landscape of business. So
yeah, let's take a step back and chat about Mr. Accountability, okay?
Oh, yeah. So I hope he's listening. I might send him this link just so I can rub it in his face.
This is great. So I was listening to just a portion of a Joe Rogan podcast, and he had somebody on there. I don't know who he was. He was probably somebody famous. All of his guests are. Right. But he said something about how he's connected with Gary Vee somehow, and it bothers him that Gary Vee goes around and tells everybody that they should be an entrepreneur because not everybody should. Right. Right. Yes. So talking about Mr. Accountability a little bit, what couldn't Mr. Accountability start a lawn mowing business, landscaping business? Let's take him in isolation, right? So we won't generalize for the moment. I would say probably not, because the other thing Mr. Accountability spent a lot of time doing was sitting back and saying, we should work smart, not hard. Now, as that partnership was ending, I would respond with, well, you've been spending so much time thinking about working smart, you haven't worked at all. And so many people, sit around with that cliche in their mind, thinking that, well, I'm going to get to work, but it's going to be in a smart way. That when you take somebody like me, who I would say I'm fairly smart. I'm not, I'm not dumb at least, but I'm going to get to work. I'm going to start testing things. I would say in his individual case, probably not, because, he's going to think of the 57 reasons why not to, or what neighborhood should I start in. But look, that backs into, like, now let's generalize Mr. Accountability, and maybe why that person was saying not everybody should be an entrepreneur. If you are crushingly shy, you're probably not going to make a good entrepreneur, because I don't know many businesses you don't sell in. And even if you're going to write copy, like I've made millions of dollars writing copy, like words on a page, physical, like pen and paper, all the way to today, digital kind of copy. And I got those skills by going door to door as a kid. We had no money growing up. So I remember collecting cans. We get ants in the car and they crawl up my legs because we didn't have money. So I sold like candy and stuff door to door. In fact, one of my first jobs in junior high was a telephone salesperson. So I've sold a lot. I've sold badly for a long time too, by the way. So you don't need to be,
crazy skilled right from the beginning. So I'm going to get started. It's somebody who's like Mr. Accountability is going to fall, they're going to fall for the trap. And here's the trap. If you look at Gary Vee, Simon Sinek, Tony Robbins, even before social media, they have a distinctive message, right? And that message is one of empowerment and opportunity, which in one hand is really positive. However, you and I both know as entrepreneurs, you're going to have some setbacks, and setbacks really suck. You might even go bankrupt. You might have your car repossessed, your house foreclosed on. That's rough. You may have to move back in with your parents. And when you're going through that, it's okay to feel like crap. Like you should be mad. You should be upset. You should probably wake up and start crying throughout the day. You know what I mean? It's like, that's normal. So the challenge with those group of people is, in order to stay on brand and to appeal to the mass, right? So especially in social media where you're going for views and you're manipulating the algorithm. On YouTube, we all know you got to get past that like 2-minute threshold. It's really good if you get past 10 minutes. And if you can get a big bulk of people past 10 minutes, like YouTube will love you. Why? Because you're keeping people on their platform and they're making more ad dollars. So what inevitably happens is this pandering to what's going to keep people around versus what they want. Case in point would be...
So what are the personality traits of an entrepreneur? What is required? Is there anything required?
The only thing I would say is required is the ability to do lots of work with zero reward. And I'm not saying a little reward. I'm saying zero, maybe even negative. You know what I mean? Where people are telling you, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because if you can't do that basic thing, you're not going to make it. And like going through selection, there was no reward there, Pat. I mean, it's like beat down from getting off the bus to literally like the graduation ceremony. Nobody's giving you appreciation. Nobody's telling you attaboy. Nobody is, motivating you. It had to come from within. And entrepreneurism in general is a lot like that. So I would say that's number one. But look, that comes across as, using an old-timey phrase, would be like stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah.
People also talk about discipline or other things. So let's break down discipline, right? Because people may interpret what I'm saying. So I'm going to try and box them in and predict what they're thinking. So let's say somebody heard what I just said and said, oh, well, Maceo's saying I have to be disciplined. Well, not really, because discipline really boils down to your self-image. Years ago, I had a coach, and he was telling me a story about him running. He wanted to run an hour every day. And he said he tried all kinds of tricks, putting his shoes by the door, by the bed, all these tricks that people teach you. And he said, but you know what, Maceo, one day I woke up and I went running, and somebody was talking to me, and they said, you know what, I'm not really a runner. And my mentor said, his immediate response was, oh, well, I'm a runner. And what he noticed is, from that day forward, he had no problem getting up. He woke up without an alarm. It was never a challenge. So what am I getting at? What I'm getting at is, who do you think you are? What is your identity? Do you believe that you're a hard worker? Do you believe, like with my mentor, Mark, that you're a runner? If you do, then your brain is designed to make you do the things necessary to complete that. Right now, we are getting into issues like self-esteem and other things. They do apply. And this is where, guys like Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek, sort of more of the rah-rah types, this is where they are on track, in that you can only achieve what you believe about yourself and what that means for possibility.
So when there's an entrepreneur that doesn't have these like key pieces, right? It's not the personality that
you're making this tough on me.
Yeah. That exactly, like they aren't the big risk takers. They're not super outgoing. They're not the type that can really envision success. Can they learn these things? Can they say, hey, let's just go for it? Because honestly, I think that's one of the best attributes of an entrepreneur is I have about 20% of the information, and I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to figure out the rest. Can entrepreneurs do that?
Here's the good news. Absolutely. So when I was coaching people, teaching them how to trade, they had a similar question. Can I really do it? And what I would tell them is just the fact that you're here means that you can. And it's as simple as this. My mom, she recently passed, she kept us out of the ghetto, worked 3 jobs, had no advantages. I come from mixed parents. So my dad's Black. My mom's was this white, little white Jewish lady from Puerto Rico. She just had really light skin and blue eyes, which of course everybody in Arizona who spoke Spanish refused to believe that she could speak Spanish until she, rattled it off.
Right.
Anyway, she would never in a million years buy a course or, get on Udemy or anything like that. She just wouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that she's somehow deficient, but I would say just the fact that somebody is listening to the sound of my voice in this moment, just because somebody does buy the course, absolutely, that means you literally have everything you need.
I mean, they're taking the initiative, right? They're taking that first step and they're putting themselves out there, which is a huge aspect of being an entrepreneur. A lot of times, one of the biggest pitfalls that I see when I'm coaching people and I'm helping them getting their business up and going is that they have so many options or there's so many things to choose from that they never actually do anything, right?
Oh, yeah.
So many people come to me and they're like, Allan, I have this great idea. And I'm the wrong guy to come to with that because I will make you feel bad unless you do something about it. Right. Which is, at the end of the day, I think most businesses that succeed, I don't think there are a ton of novel businesses. I think it's who stuck with it, who pivoted when they needed to, and who just figured it out. Right. And so if I have somebody that comes to me, they have a 9-to-5, they have a couple of bucks they put together, and they're like, look, if I don't do this, then I'm going to regret it the rest of my life. What do you tell them?
Well, I mean, I actually tell them a lot, and I'd start asking some questions. So the first thing, of course, we dive into some of the basic math. A friend of mine, Scott Channel, he's got a great book on phone sales, which I don't get any affiliate money from the guy, but he stole one of my phrases, which is it's all math. So I would definitely want to know how well they grasp, whether you want to use a fancy venture capital term, like what are the unit economics based on your total addressable market or some other thing that people throw around to seem smart, whether they know the buzzwords or not. It's more about, do you have what I would call country bumpkin style understanding where, if you're paying $5 for the materials and it takes you 4 hours to put the thing together and you only get $7 for it, well, you're basically making, $2 an hour or whatever. I guess it'd be, what's 2 divided by 4? 50 cents an hour. I can't do math and talk at the same time. Because I told you I was not a math genius. But that country,
I was going to bring up Mr. Accountability there, but
well, don't get me started. Oh my gosh. I actually asked him one time, I said, you do know you have a calculator on your phone.
And that's a big part of being an entrepreneur, right?
Don't get me started. It's figure it out, right? It's figure it out.
What are your resources?
Exactly right.
What are your resources? So I think a great aspect, a great personality trait of an entrepreneur is they understand what resources they have available to them. There was this guy that brought a really good business idea to me one day. This was a couple of years ago, wanted some help, had a detailed business plan. I thought it was a great looking model. And he's like, I don't know anybody that has money that could help me. And I'm like, I'm sitting right here. Right. So I know at least one person that you know that could help you out. So do you see that a little bit in entrepreneurship where this trait of, okay, what are my resources that I could kind of put together to make this business function?
So I'll go back and complete the answer to your question, because there's actually more than one thing, right? There really are no really simple solutions. There are less complex solutions to simple questions. So what I'll probably do is investigate whether or not that person can figure it out. So I'll ask them, usually give them a task or something like that, and just see how they do. And, my basic filter is if somebody can't Google it, then yeah, you're probably going to fail. You said it earlier, Alan, 20%, if that, of what you're supposed to do. And look, there is no one that is just dying to answer all the questions you need to make you rich. We've got to forget about that. I mean, there's nothing conspiring in this world for your success. There are things that are conspiring to put assets in your path, but nothing is actively working for your success. And that's an important distinction. So to cap off, what would you do? It would be more involved, try and investigate where they are. I'd prove them and just get it rather than them telling me where they are. I'm going to put some really simple hurdles in their path to see. I'll give you an example. When I hire somebody off of a contractor website like Upwork or guru.com or something like that, I will post the job. And then in the post, I will say, in order to qualify for this job, you need to put turtle in the subject line of your email to me. And anybody without turtle in the subject line, I don't even look at, dude, because they can't follow directions. Why would I want to hire somebody who cannot follow simple instructions? And so it's easy stuff like that. And so often people are focused on, Gary V's this or some, Jocko's that or whatever they're picking up on YouTube. Yeah. It's like, let's go back to the very basics. So to finish off another question, what if you've got no redeeming qualities? Well, maybe then entrepreneurship isn't for you. I'll finally say it. There absolutely are a whole bunch of people that should be working, not even like, because I've heard Gary Vee change his tune. He talks about how some people might be a number two. It might not even be that. There are millions and millions of people who really should just be happy to go to work, 100%. Make the donuts, and then go home. Even if you have aspirations to the contrary, for whatever reason, maybe you just can't hack it. And unfortunately, people don't like hearing that. But that's the way the world is, right? So that kind of caps that off. So outside of putting a few hurdles in front of people, this is where mentors. I kind of got my brain off track, but let me finish the thought. This is where a true mentor can come in, right? So a true mentor, and I don't object to people paying for mentors, but here's the judge. The judge is that the mentor is willing to offend you in sort of this new modern version of offensive. What do I mean by that? Like what you just were getting at was you got to do some work here. I am sitting in front of you. Why are you not asking me? So a mentor is going to say something like that. Hey, you should be asking me. Why aren't you out there asking everybody? And then filling that in and saying, look, telling that person, if you're not willing to pitch your idea to every person that you know, and then ask them, who do you know who invests in stuff like this, then you should probably rethink whether or not you really want to do it. So there are ways even to test mentors. Mentors are absolutely willing to hurt your feelings in like the modern day version of that. Well, why? Because they're jerks? Well, no, because the way our brains work is that it feels good when people agree with us, and it doesn't feel good when they don't. Obviously, if you're posing an idea, like let's say you gave me an idea, hey, let's say I'm going to start this business where we're going to sell USB hubs to blind people. I have no idea why that just came to mind, but it did. And so I'm going to tell you, that's probably not a good idea, man. There's like 9 million of those on Amazon. Okay, so right there, I just disagreed with you. That hurts, right? That's the level of offensive I'm talking about. I'm not talking about insulting people. And there's a guy on YouTube, Dan Pena, who does that really well. I'm not talking about that level. I'm just saying somebody who loves you enough to tell you when you're off track in as overt and aggressive terms to get your attention.
I love this idea. I love that you brought up mentorship, and I actually wasn't even really thinking about that. But I think you've hit on a couple of key points. When somebody's looking for a mentor, they need somebody that can just give it to them straight. I think a mentor that does that, it says something about him or her. One of those things is a person's busy. That person doesn't have time to sit around and entertain things that don't make sense and that aren't good ideas. Number two, that's a confident individual. They could say, you know what, that USB idea, that's a dumb idea, right? They kind of they're confident in their knowledge about a business or whatever area they're discussing, and I think that's a great point.
Well, some of it too with mentors, and let me add one more thing to that, because what I learned, especially in the trading room, I mean, dude, I came up in an environment where, the pits were there, people were literally throwing elbows, and trading rooms, there were no women around, so it was just like a locker room, everything you could imagine.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, that's the environment, right? And so the people who mentored me in trading realized that they had to have enough respect for me to not use flowery terms, or, I keep going to the South for some reason, but a good Southern phrase I like is going around your elbow to get to your wallet. So I could reach for my wallet like this, but if I'm going to my wallet on that side, right, it doesn't, hopefully that makes it on the video. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the mentor that's going to give it to you straight, though, is also going to prove you, right? So one of the things that happened overtly in the trading room, if you just walked in, was like, man, these guys are treating each other like crap.
Yeah.
But look, trading is an emotional exercise. Losing money is painful. I mean, modern science proves that it's like physically and mentally painful and emotionally painful to lose money. And so what we were doing was literally training each other. And it was overt in the trading room. You get a lot of this in professional sports and things like that, especially in the combat arena, talking about special forces and whatnot. There's a lot of that stuff going on. So a good mentor is also going to prove you to see where you are. So they may push back on an idea just to see how confident you are, right? Good CEOs will test you all the time. This doesn't make it out in the public, but like if you talk to somebody who worked directly with Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs, not some joker that was like 7 people removed who wrote a book on how he does presentations or something like that, or somebody that worked with him for 6 months, what they will tell you is they are constantly pushing. Why? Because they know if as a high growth company needs to be in front of the competition. And
and I've read a bunch of these biographies, and it's, the kind of consensus is these guys are jerks or whatever, right? Because they keep pushing and it's never good enough.
Right.
Maceo, we've got to wrap this up, unfortunately, but I'm going to give you a scenario. I've got an aspiring entrepreneur, hasn't pulled the trigger yet, has that, proverbial 20% of information and resources they need. I need you to get them off the fence and take action. What do you tell them?
Do the math. Start with what it is that you're trying to sell, number one. How much does it cost you to put that thing together? How much is it going to cost you to get to market? And do you make a profit after that, right? So that's one layer of profit. You might call it gross profit. If you get there and you can make enough money for your personal needs, then you've got a shot. And by the way, in that really simple methodology, look, this is why I don't sell courses anymore, because I can tell you in like, how long was that? 45 seconds? I can tell you in 45 seconds everything you need to know to build the next $1 trillion business. Well, why do I say that? I say that because Amazon is not an e-commerce company. Amazon is a cloud company. Go look at their public public documents. Their profit comes from AWS and all of those cloud services. So don't tell me, Jeff Bezos, when he had Amazon spray painted on his wall, knew he was going to be the cloud magnate.
No, there's no way.
You've got to start there. And by the way, if you keep those 3 things in mind and you keep those 3 things under control, then as you grow, it's not going to get out of control. You're not going to get, upside down with debt. You're going to know how much debt to take on. The business is really very simple. So then the next thing I would say is, then once you've got the math, start with one person. Go sell your thing to someone. That's it.
I love it. nice and concise, short, easy to understand, but it's true, right? Like start small, but do something. So, well, hey, Maceo, it's been a pleasure having you. I wish we could have made this an hour and a half as opposed to 30 minutes. Where can people find more about what you're doing?
Well, our healthcare project, you can get it at connexia.com. We're bringing hospital quality healthcare into the home. Then you can always go to my personal website, maceojourdan.com. I'm always willing to work with people like you, though. I want to see some results. So I don't do very much in theory anymore. So if somebody wants to work on a project, I've got no problem, giving them all the help that they can need. But they got to show me some work.
Love it.
Show your work, baby.
All right, man after my own heart. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
I'm sure our listeners just have so much to learn from this episode, especially as it relates to just getting that motivation they need to take the next step. So thanks for joining us. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, Allan. Thanks, bud.
Hey, I wanted to thank Maceo again for that great episode, great information about whether entrepreneurship is right for everybody, and it's clearly not. It's my opinion that some people just really can't live a fulfilling life being an entrepreneur. And so your task is to figure out if you're one of those people. Start with your why, right? Is your why for starting a business and being an entrepreneur big enough? Make sure to leave me a review on the platform that you're listening to this on. Also, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. And if you have any questions, anything you want to chat about, reach out to me, allandraper.com, set an appointment, and let's chat. Let's get your business up and rolling. Till next time.
If you have enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a rating. And for daily inspiration and business tips, follow Allan on Instagram. Until next time, remember, we build the future one entrepreneur at a time.